Hey everybody, how you doing? Tonight we are going to have a wonderful conversation. Dr. Bod Saul is a person that has been guiding in the physical, behavioral, and mental area when it comes to reference to children for over 40 years. And he's written several books, has a line of history in this area. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually be kind of talking through one of the books that he has written, specifically called Conscious Parenting. It's using the parental awareness threshold. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this conversation. And I know you don't want to have your friends or family members to miss it either. So let's share this and let's get ready to dive in. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Focus on Greatness podcast. My name is Hiram, and today one of the things that we have done is I've been able to find someone that will be able to help us as parents to be effective parents, to be parents that will not only raise our children, but raise them with the right tools, the right insight that they would need to be effective. Do me a favor before we dive in, for those that are listening on the podcast, if it's Apple, Google, Anchor, Spotify, make sure that you are subscribed. But also, I want you to comment and I want you to share this with somebody that you know that needs to be a part of this conversation, that didn't get the opportunity to hear it like you are right now. So do me a favor, for those that are watching, those that are listening, even if you're driving in your car, tap on the top of your steering wheel and give a warm welcome to Robert Saul. How you doing, sir? Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Yes, sir. Well, welcome to the podcast. Do me a favor as before we dive into this conversation, kind of introduce yourself to those that do not know you, and then we'll go from there and kind of dive in this conversation a little bit deeper.
Sure. I've been a pediatrician for, been a pediatrician for 45 years, and also a medical geneticist. And it's with that background that I come to share some of my experience about what I like to is share some of my journey, because I think that journey is helpful. And then that gets us to where trying to give some tangible parenting tips going forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, let's do this. I personally would like to start kind of from the top. How do we kind of get into the field that you're in as of today? Like, where did this all begin and start this journey?
Well, I mean, I wanted to go into medicine, and I decided I wanted to go into pediatrics as I got very involved with children with disabilities. So that was in the mid 70s when I finished up my medical school training. I wanted to go into pediatrics and did that. Graduated from medical school at the University of Colorado. Went to did my pediatric training at Duke University, and then did medical genetics training also to see what I could do. So I've been on both sides of this equation in terms of just doing primary care, and also doing specialty care. And I think that's allowed me to sort of open my eyes and be a lot more receptive to a lot of things. If you allow me to fast forward for just a second, I actually just retired.
Oh, well, congratulations.
In December. It was a hard decision, but at age 71, it finally made sense to take some time and smell a few more roses along the way here.
Well,
I'm still very busy. I'm involved with the South Carolina chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. I'm the president of the South Carolina chapter right now. So that's where I am right now.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll say for a 71-year-old, you look very, very good.
Thank you.
You look very, very good, sir.
I had a good makeup team.
Well, I hope through this conversation, we can be able to kind of dig some of that wisdom that you've been able to gain over the years, being able to, be in the field that you've been in. I know that there's a lot of lessons that you've been able to see and to learn even within your own self over the years of helping in the pediatric forum, and seeing how impactful the context of the importance of a parent and their child. And so when I know you have, I believe it's two books that you have written, being able to help us as parents. And so tell me about the first book and kind of how that came to be.
Sure. Let me give you the background with that. Again, I started in Greenwood, South Carolina with my medical practice, and was very busy. Of course, as you graduate from medical school, you want to be the best darn doctor you can be, and you get very involved. And that can take a lot of work, even though I was out of training, and it can take some time away from the family. My first marriage unfortunately dissolved, but not because of my medical career, but for some other reasons. And in the mid 1990s, I found myself saying, I really haven't been paying attention to what I need to be doing in the community. I've been so focused on my singular purpose as a physician and as a father that I sort of lost track of being a citizen. So I heard a conversation then that has had a profound impact on me ever since. I heard of a healthcare futurist say 12 words that made a huge difference. He was talking about whatever happens in your community, and you can identify these as problems, or you can identify these as areas of improvement. But for anything that happens in your community, I am the problem, I am the solution, I am the resource.
Wow.
Those 12 words just have been sort of my North Star after that. Now, it's not their problem, it's my problem. I need to take ownership in whatever's happening in the community. It's not their drug problem. It's not their teenage pregnancy problem. It's not their rundown housing problem. It's my problem.
Yeah.
And I need to be part of the solution. But to do that, I need to devote my resources to that. So it took me several months to internalize that message. And then I went to the folks in the community. I said, put me in, I'm ready to do some work. And I really felt good. I felt sort of smug that I was really a good citizen, a good guy.
Right.
And then Columbine hit. April 20th, 1999. 2 teenagers walk into a school, massacre 13 people, and kill themselves. I was just aghast, as we all were. And I said, could this happen in my community? And the answer was yes. What have I done to sort of try to do my part to try to prevent that from happening? And the answer was not enough. So I sat down, put pencil to paper. We did that back then, and wrote an op-ed article for the local newspaper about what each of us could do to improve our community. And I came up with the 5 steps to community improvement. Learn to be the best parent you could be. Get involved. Stay involved, which I think is something different. Love for others. And the most difficult, I think, and probably the most important, is forgiveness. Learning the practice of forgiveness. And so over the course of then the next 12, 13 years, I wrote over 160 plus articles for the local newspaper talking about each of those 5 steps.
Yeah.
And so that sort of became where I was going with this. And as I would write some of these, I would share them with my wife, which was a mistake, but that's okay. And she would say, I don't know about this one. This sounds too preachy. And I said, well, I don't think you understand. I don't think you understand who I'm preaching to. And she said, who? I said, I'm preaching to me. If these comments have which for me were action steps for me, if they have something of some benefit to other people, then that's just icing on the cake for me.
Yeah.
So I went through those, and if I can, let me just sort of put a little more meat on those 5 steps bones.
Yes, please.
Well, learn to be the best parent you could be. I chose my words carefully there because parenting is a lifelong learning experience. Even when you even when you become a grandparent, you're still learning.
Yeah.
To be the best parent you could be. Not everyone has the same abilities because of their life circumstances, because of their education. So my job as a pediatrician was to try to enhance their abilities the best that I could.
Mhm.
It's easy for me as a pediatrician to say, well, this is what you got to do.
Right.
And
Right.
maybe they didn't have the resources to do it. They might have, might not have had the housing to do it,
Yeah.
or a variety of things. So my job was to sort of gently peek behind the curtain and see what I could do to help them in terms of their parenting skills.
Yeah.
Second, get involved. I think it's so important to get involved in your community because that's what sends the message for yourself, for others, and for your children in terms of what it means. But things will change, so sometimes you have to stay involved
Mm.
because you
Mm.
might migrate out of what you were doing, what initially was your passion, might something else. So you just need to be there to stay involved.
Right.
The fourth one is intuitive, love for others, but we seem to be having a real trouble with that one, especially in today's society.
Yes. Yes, we
So
are.
that we always need a constant reminder about that one. But the fifth one, I think, is the most difficult, and it, it's the longest journey for me. Is the journey of learning forgiveness.
Yeah.
A great
Yeah.
little book by Mitch Albom called Tuesdays with Maury.
Mhm.
When Maury was one of his college professors, and Mitch Albom, who was a sports writer,
Mhm.
found out that his college professor was dying of Lou Gehrig's disease. Went to visit him, and actually then every Tuesday for a period of time, and his professor sort of gave him some life lessons. But one of the take-home messages for me from that book was what Maury Schwartz said: forgive yourself first.
Mhm.
That is what you're doing, the thoughts you have that don't let you move on.
Mm.
Forgive others and do it now.
I like that.
Um, and because, forgiveness, I mean, your 4-year-old whacks your 2-year-old and you tell the 4-year-old, tell him you're sorry.
Right.
I mean, that's a form of forgiveness,
Mhm.
asking for an apology or apologizing. But that's very different than what a 10-year-old should do, 20-year-old, 40-year-old, 60-year-old, or a
Yeah.
71-year-old. We ought to be able to be more sophisticated in our response.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
and
yeah.
so and the other thing I've learned about forgiveness that's really, I think, important is not just personal forgiveness, but
Mhm.
what I call social or communal forgiveness.
Hmm.
Um, for example, the American Medical Association, some years past, and I don't know the specific timeline,
Mhm.
did not allow Black physicians into their membership.
Mhm.
Hence, there was an organization that was developed called the National Medical Association, essentially for Black physicians.
Mhm.
I don't know when they started allowing Black physicians in, but the easy thing to at that point was say, well, we did that, that's what somebody else in the past did.
Right.
We're moving on. But they saw that they needed to do more than that.
Yeah.
So about 10, 15 years ago, they wrote an article and publicly apologized for their
Mm.
past uh,
Wow.
negligence. Uh,
Yeah.
um, and, it's easy to say, well, it wasn't me. They did it.
Yeah.
But they realized it was us. And that's what I mean by social or communal forgiveness. So it was us. And if we're going to reset our moral compass going forward, we need to acknowledge that and go forward.
Yeah.
And that's really in your state of Texas, it's an issue. In my state of South Carolina, it's really an issue with the Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And that is an abhorrent symbol of slavery.
Right.
And it needs to be taken down. It needs to be recognized for what it is
Mhm.
instead of just, quote, heritage, which too many people in our state do.
Yeah.
So, we continue to the need for social or communal forgiveness in addition to sort of personal forgiveness.
Yeah. Now, after you wrote this, because you stated that when you wrote it really preaching to yourself. So how did these 5 keys, I'll say it that way, how did these 5 keys affect you as a parent with your own children?
Well, as I said, it was, I wrote those 160 articles and
Hmm.
would share them with folks around the country. And then they finally said, you need to put it into a book.
Yeah.
And so then I, in 2013, published My Children's Children, Raising Young Citizens in the Age of Columbine.
Yeah.
How it affected me was I felt that we'd lost track of one of the most important things that we do in our society, especially
Mm.
in a democratic society, is be citizens.
Yeah.
Citizens take care of each other. Citizens care for each other. Citizens don't just say, what's in it for me?
Hmm.
Citizen, and by being a good citizen, that's how you become a better parent.
Mm.
For example, when my parents divorced when I was young, and I
Hmm.
remember my mother, who did an incredible job, and I'd like to think if any of what I'm saying today makes any sense, that it's
Hmm.
almost coming from her mouth. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yes, sir.
I remember her saying, "All I want you to do is be happy, Bob. I just want you to be happy."
Wow.
And when my first marriage ended in divorce, I remember telling my oldest son, "I just want you to be happy." And then I realized as I was going through this process, this revelation, introspection
Hmm.
process, that I think I had it wrong. What I really wanted them to do was really wanted myself and my sons to be good citizens. And if they're good citizens, then they will be happy.
Yeah.
Now that's somewhat simplistic, but I
Hmm.
think it's the core value, uh, that it's not search happiness and you become a good citizen. I think if
Hmm.
you become a good citizen, and practice what citizens need to do, and those can be people with faith or no faith.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Right.
all of us can be good citizens, and so I think that's crucial. And if you're a good citizen, if you're willing to take care of other people, if you understand, willing to listen to other people, if you're willing to love other people and care for those people, then I think you'll find inner happiness.
Yeah. I was having a conversation today with someone, and in that conversation, I was sharing with them really, I believe, the importance of serving one another. And sometimes I think we get into this mode of where it's all about me, me, me. Even when it's talking about our community or it's talking about our cities, we get into this mode of what can I get out of it? Who's doing this for me? Who's doing that for me? When in some form, the heart should be, how can I serve? Where can I help? What can I put my hand into? And so when you start sharing or saying what you're saying as being citizens versus trying to only look at my happiness per se, or going into this aspect, it's almost in that same mindset of where as a citizen my heart is, I want to help people, and in that helping people, in making that impact in people's lives, in doing those things, I find my happiness.
Absolutely.
And so I love that, and I think that's something that if we get into the mindset, or get our children, I guess you, even as you're stating, get our children into that mindset, they will find a happiness that they couldn't find in any other field or any other
And
way.
if you look at those 12 words I said, I am the problem, I am the solution, I am the resource. Change the
Hmm.
pronoun.
Yeah.
We are the problem. We are the solution. We are the resource.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it puts it on all of us. And pediatricians are particularly exasperated these
Hmm.
days during the COVID pandemic, especially now with this Delta variant. We're
Yeah.
so upset that not enough people are not vaccinated, and not enough people are not protecting the health of children by allowing them, especially in our state, to
Hmm.
wear a mask when they go to school. We want them in school. We want them in school, but
Right.
they have to be protected.
Yeah. Yep.
And
That's
so
true.
it's we want to make sure we can do with what we can with that.
Yeah.
After I finished the first book, I actually came up with a little children's book for that.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a very atypical children's book because it's a series of 13 beautiful illustrations. I didn't do them, of what people can be doing in their community to improve their community. It's a mom breastfeeding. It's a family going to the senior center. It's a family going to animal shelter. It's showing kids after a baseball game, shaking hands with each other. It's going to a military cemetery. It's eating together as a family. It's reading together with the TV off. And so I call it Good Night Moon with a message, because it's the pictures. And then the messages are there. The messages are for the kids, but also for the parents to learn in terms of what they can and should be doing.
So it sounds like some of the principles, I guess you would say, that you're sharing, even in that book, is I would say, some of the core of what family used to look like. When family did sit together as a family and eat dinner. And, there was no, we're going to watch TV, or we're going to be on our cell phones and, looking up different things. It was, we dive in as a family. I want to know about your day. I want to know how you're doing, those basic things. And then the supporting or helping the community, helping in different areas, volunteering at different places, but doing it not individually, but as a collective, as a family. And so I think that's wonderful. I know my youngest son, his name is Isaiah. He's just turned 8, and he has a passion, a real heart to want to help the homeless. Every time we have a conversation about, those different things, I want to make all this money so I can help help the homeless people, and so it's in those things, just like you're saying, is now helping your community. Now it's being a good citizen, and taking those times to be able to say, okay, this is how you can be impactful. This is how you can be able to help. And then we're going to gather around that as a family, so we can be able to build that portion in you as you go forward.
Right. And so let me jump ahead to sort of my parenting book, as you introduced me at the beginning.
Yes.
Called Conscious Parenting, using the parental awareness threshold. So I'd like to think that everything I had sort of done up until then, in terms of my books and my writings, sort of prepared me for sort of saying, okay, let's give parents some more tangible ideas in terms of what specifically, it's nice to say you should be a good person, but what are the things I should be specifically focusing on? And again, I sort of, let me give you a little bit of background to that. When I switched jobs before I retired, 8 years before I retired, I worked for a healthcare system that had a leadership training called Conscious Leadership. And in a nutshell, that meant they wanted you to be conscious of where you were. For example, you're in a 3:00 meeting and you're saying to yourself, this is the most boring meeting I have ever been in. When's this thing going to end? And so they want you to just be conscious of that. That is, if you can say, okay, wait a minute, I really hate this meeting. And I can be conscious of that and just stay that way until the meeting's over. Or now that I'm conscious of it, how can I change my awareness, my activity, my participation to do better? And they talk about a line. When you're above the line, you're open, you're receptive, you're ready to learn. When you're below the line, you're defensive, you're right, and you're closed. I think the same thing holds for parenting.
Wow.
That is, I call it the parental awareness threshold. When you're above that, the PAT, the football reference, you're open, you're receptive, you're ready to listen to what your kids are saying. When you're below the line, you're closed, you're right, and gosh darn it, I'm the parent. And again, as parents, we're going to be above and below the line. The point is being conscious of it. The point is being conscious of it in two ways. One, in the moment, it's happening, and then two, in retrospect. What do I mean? Well, in the moment, you might say, my kid's yelling at me, and my normal reaction is to yell back.
Right. Yeah.
And in the moment, if you can, what it would be nice to do would be to pause, assess why this has devolved to this situation, and then choose an appropriate response instead of just escalating things.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that's not so easy
No.
because
Yeah. It's not.
depending on
Yeah.
the situation. It's the end of the day. You're worried about your finances. You're worried about your job. I mean, there's just so many factors that come into our human and social existence these days. So if you screwed up, if you yelled and escalated things, then it's nice to sort of consciously review things after the fact and say, either with a spouse or a trusted individual or a pastor or a friend or a relative or a sibling, say, that what I did a couple of days ago did not go over well.
Yeah.
And I'm really not proud of that. And what can I do to do better going forward? So I want people to sort of, and the book sort of details how to sort of try to do that in terms of learning, listening, altering responses, being receptive. Sometimes you got to change. Sometimes you don't have to change.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
And at each stage of childhood, it's difficult. I mean, it's easy for a pediatrician to say to the mother that has that colicky baby, oh, it'll go away.
Right.
Don't worry about it. And the mother comes in obviously with these huge bags under her eyes, and she is completely a puddle of tears.
Right.
And she might be a single parent. Well, she needs some coping skills. She needs to figure out how to do this rather than just me pat her on the back. And I think some of that is just being consciously aware of where you are. That is, if you could figure out, I'm so run down that I need help.
Yeah.
And the same sort of thing happens at 1 year of age when you come home, the dad comes home, pardon the sexist roles here. Dad comes home and mom is feeding the baby and the baby's throwing the peas on the floor and dad thinks that's so cute. Mom is at wit's end.
Yeah.
I mean, the two other children have been fighting all afternoon. She's tired of picking up the food. And you come home and everything's happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
And so you need to sort of figure out what's going on and how to take that step back.
Yeah.
And I use the example in the book of you could do this for, say, a 10-year-old. Mom picks up the child at school, goes through the drive-in because the child says, I'm thirsty, gets a drink and says, oh, don't spill this. And the child gets in the back seat in the booster seat, 2 blocks down the road. Mom, my drink spilled. Well, your first reaction is to pull over, yell, and say, I told you so. And it would be nice to pause, assess, and then choose. Because, in the scenario I put in the book, the drink actually tipped over because you took that turn too fast and the book bag knocked it over. So sometimes it happens. I mean, so the parent needs to be aware of their reaction can be as painful. As that. And one other quick thing is, one night, I'm sure this isn't just my family. One night, my son did something, and I yelled at him, and I think he was like 7 or 8 or 9. He just melted. I mean, he was a puddle of tears. And my wife got mad at me for yelling. And then we went into that family meltdown mode where nobody talks for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of goes their separate ways or just walks past each other. And because oftentimes that's the cooling off period. And that night, then when I was putting my son to sleep, I said, son, I'm so sorry. You did something I didn't think was right, but my response was completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
And I should not have done that. And I want to apologize. And I hope you'll forgive me. And we're in this together, and a few more things. And he said, Dad, would you be quiet? I said, why? He said, I hate it when you're nice. Now, I don't say that to pat myself on the back, but what I say that is maybe some of the principles of conscious parenting I was doing before I even wrote the book.
Yeah.
And again, the whole point to me, conscious parenting are the skills that lead to conscious parenting are the same skills that lead us to raise good citizens.
Yeah.
And that's what I want us to be doing better.
Yeah.
So in the book, I sort of have scenarios that from 0 to 2, 5 to 10, and in teen years in terms of just little scenarios in terms of what to do, how to respond to things, how to drop off your kid at school if they're screaming and they don't want to go. Been there, done that. And when your teenager wants the car keys and it's not appropriate for them to have the car keys because of some indiscretion. It's not the whole point of parenting is you don't just, I'm just going to pause, assess, and choose a calm path. Sometimes you have to be the parent.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean you yell, fly off the handle, but it means you're just calm and collected and say, no, not tonight. You did not do what we said you were supposed to do 2 nights ago. And until 2 more nights from now, then we can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And for those that are listening, as well as for those that are watching, make sure that you take advantage of this opportunity in reference to not just what you're hearing, but the books and the material that he has. It's for different levels. I'll say it that way, for different levels of your life. Again, you're talking about if you have a child that, we can go over the children's to children's book and you can be able to work that through. But then also the parenting book we're looking at is something that helps us as parents at the different stages of parenting. Sometimes we can have these struggles of where, okay, I'm trying to get this good at 1 and 2. Now you're 3 and 4. Now what do I do? And it's like, sometimes we say parenting, we don't have a manual or a book on parenting, but now you do. You have something that can be able to help you through the different stages and give you some wisdom and some insight. So his information will be in the description. You can go and get these books and make sure that you read and get the wisdom that you need to become a better parent and be able to be effective for not only as a parent, but as a person. Because I think these same tools that you're giving us helps us as in your work office, how you respond when somebody has done something, they got on your nerves or said something wrong or did something, it's how you respond even in those pieces as well. And so this is very, very good. So I'm personally going to be taking some of these tools and applying it to my own self because as you're talking, I'm thinking of moments and scenarios of when, oh man, I did that. I remember I started, I yelled at my son because he did this, whatever. And now it's like, okay, now I need to start taking the time, pausing for a minute before I actually respond. And like you said, being conscious of that present time, being conscious of what's happening. Even if I mess up, I still need to sit back and say, okay, did I do that right? Did I approach that the right way? Did I say that the right way? And what I think is probably the biggest struggle sometimes as a parent, and I know you can probably agree to this as well, is after I realize that I did it wrong, now going back and saying, please forgive me. Like I messed up. And sometimes I know that can be a struggle as a parent to say that you're wrong. And so, but thank you so much for this wisdom. Thank you so much for this wisdom. Thank you so much for the insight, because it is truly helpful. And I think that as if we become, in this aspect, better parents, helping our children to become better citizens, we'll see a difference in the lives of the people that sits around us. And I think that will start changing not only in our homes, but it will change the dynamics of schools. It will change the dynamics of our community because we're doing our part in this whole big thing called our lives. And so thank you for taking the time and listening to those around you and actually putting this into a book form. So now, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people can be able to take advantage of what you are providing to us as a people. So thank you, sir, so much for that.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Yes, sir. There is a question that I normally pose that it kind of goes with the theme of the podcast that I pose to any guest that I have on. And it's a question that I ask because I believe in all of our lives, we have different dynamics of how we see things, but those perspectives help and impact other people. And so my question that I always ask is, what's greatness to you? What will you define greatness as?
I read that before I came on, and then tried to, and I didn't come up with a quick answer. I was hoping that as I was talking, I would come up with an answer. And I guess to me, the answer is greatness is people that take care of other people.
Wow, I like that.
And because that's, I mean, as a nation of faith, that's what we should be doing. But again, even the faithless can take care of other people, and that to me is greatness: the ability, the desire to take care of others.
Yeah, I like that. I really do like that. I've had the chance and opportunity to be able to hear so many different in reference to definitions from different people when it comes to this answer. And everybody's first response is per se the same. Like, this is a heavy question. I've really been trying to figure this out. But I love that answer. I really do love that answer. And I think that if we do become great like that, people helping people, we will see an effective change.
Absolutely.
We will see an effective change. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule and being a part of this. And again, for those that are watching, as those also that are listening, please make sure that you take advantage. Go and look at and follow him on his social media links that I have at the bottom, as well as make sure that you take advantage and purchase this book. I always want to make sure that I'm bringing someone to the platform. There it goes. My Children's Children and Conscious Parenting. Make sure that you do this. Also, you can go into his website. You can get some information, kind of, get some more wisdom, I would say, in that aspect from his site, his website, and just take advantage of this. I make sure I try my hardest to take time to bring people on that I believe is going to help us every day to become greater. And so Mr. Saul is one of those people that I did truly believe that was going to bring something that is going to help our lives to become better and better as we continue to go forward in life. So again, thank you, sir, for coming on.
Thank you. It's really been my pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I pray that this conversation was impactful to you in some form of way. What I want to make sure is that not only are you hearing and learning this information, but that you're taking the time to apply something, some nugget, some piece that you took from this conversation that you can say, I can apply this for my life to be better. I want you to continue to be with me and make sure that you're with me every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I love you all, and I'll talk to you next time right here on the Focus on Greatness family. Bye-bye.